Caitlin Clark accept a $1 million contract, and the entire women's basketball world is in shock. You could almost hear the collective gasp echo across Arena's Twitter feed, and Sports Talk shows $1 million in women's basketball. That's not just a paycheck. It's a cannonball splash into an ocean that has for decades. But a shallow pool of underpayment and overlooked value. This isn't just about one superstar in the bag. This is about rewriting the rules of game itself. If you're here for the real story and not to filter version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe to understand why this contract feels like an earthquake. You have to know the history. For years, WNBA salaries have been painfully out of step with the actual value players bring. We're talking league MVP is making less in season, and NBA bench warmer makes in 2 weeks. Fans have been screaming about it for years. Point to packed arenas, rising TV numbers, and sponsorship. They go way beyond what the peril suggests. Enter Caitlin Clark, the rookie phantom, who turned the women's basketball conversation upside down. Clark isn't just a scorer, she's a spectacle. She's the kind of player who makes people rearrange their schedules. You catch her games with strangers in bars, change her name, who gets entire sports media networks suddenly treating the WNBA like must-watch television. She's been selling out arenas like she's Beyoncé on tour, and with that kind of power, the question has always been, when is the money can catch up? Well, the answer came of that contract, $1 million. And just like that, the system got a job it wasn't ready for. Now, let's be clear, this isn't just a number. It's a symbol. It's saying Caitlin Clark is bigger than the rules that used to find women's basketball economics. It's saying her value isn't kept by outdated structures, collective bargaining quirks, or whatever. Excuse is used, get thrown around, and that's why people are shook. Because of Clark is getting $1 million a day, what does that mean for everyone else tomorrow? But of course, no seismic moment in sports comes without controversy. The whispers start immediately. Whereas the money coming from? This is a one-off publicity stunt. Does this make the WNBA look bad? Oh, and the biggest question of all, wait, is to the WNBA, or is this our finally taken an unrivaled offer? Ah yes, unrivaled, the upstart league lurking in the shadows, flashing checks like Vegas casino, desperate pull Clark away from the WNBA spotlight. For months they've been throwing out offers, try to war with promises of player empowerment and glossy branding, but fans, they've been savagely rejecting the idea. Poll after poll shows Clark Nation has zero interest in watching their hero suit up for some gimmicky 3x3 lead that struggles to pull in viewers to them. Clark belongs in the WNBA. She is a WNBA. So when this $1 million headline hit, fans held their breath. When she's staying loyal to the W, or was just a moment unrivaled, finally score their big heist. And then came the confirmation. Clarksdale was firmly tied the WNBA orbit. Or relief, excitement, vindication. Fans felt like they just dodged a bullet. She wasn't in the league. She even elevating all season. She wasn't selling out to start up. She was cashing in while staying true. That's why this moment feels so monumental. Because it's not just money, it's loyalty rewarded. But let's pause and think about what this means to teach ugly. One player, one contract is now the biggest story, and women's sports is not about the scoreboard. It's about economics. Caitlin Clark just redefined what's possible. For decades, the league's been battling to convince advertisers, broadcasters, and skeptics that women's basketball deserves investment. Clark skipped the debate and proved it with raw numbers. Her games are draw. MLB, NHL, and even some NBA broadcast her jerseys sell out in hours. She is living proof that demand is there. And his contract, it's the first time the money's actually starting to reflect reality. Of course, the ripple effects are already starting. You can bet players across the league, or is deal. One thought, where's my cut? If Clark and shattered the glass ceiling, it set precedent. No, not everyone the commander numbers, but it break the illusion that women's basketball players can only be paid pennies compared to their male counterparts. Suddenly agents of leverage, suddenly sponsors, and suddenly lead negotiations feel different. And is probably sweating the most right now the folks over at Unrivaled. because this was their ante. Higher pitch, come here, Caitlyn will pay what you're worth. But now the WNBA beat them to the punch. She's getting the money, and the credibility is the worst case scenario for the start of league. Their one shot at legitimacy was pulling her away, and instead, she doubled down with a very institution they're trying to throw. But it's like trying to start a new music festival and watching Beyoncé headline Cold Chill. Instead, game over. But let's not get too comfortable. This story isn't just about Clark winning and unrivaled. Losing it also puts pressure on the WNBA itself. One star making $1 million is great, but where happens next? Do other players start demanding parity? Does the league have the infrastructure to sustain the shift? Can ownership groups actually pony up without running into financial collapse? These are the tough questions, and make no mistake, this contract is going to be at the center of the next CBA negotiations. Now, from a fan perspective, this is delicious drama. On one side, you have a star so transcendent, she's changing the math, an entire league. On the other, you got rival organizations flailing try to catch up, and in the middle, yeah, fans who feel more empowered than ever because or loyalty, their viewership, their ticket sales, or what made as possible. Think about it. Without fans showing up, without them smashing TV ratings records, without them flooding social media will highlight clips, means there's no $1 million check. This is a rare moment where you can actually see fan power and action. The collective we ride for Caitlyn movement, just for the system to evolve, and that is huge. So where do we go from here? Well, buckle up, because this isn't the climax, is the first act. Clark's contract is going to light a fire under everything. Other players will leverage or deal, sponsors will throw more money at the league, networks will realize women's basketball isn't a niche product, it's primetime content, and fans will keep demanding more because now they know it's possible. But let's not forget, this also puts Caitlyn under an even brighter spotlight. $1 million paycheck comes with $1 million expectations. Every game, every performance, every playoff series will be scrutinized even harder. Is that fair? Probably not, but as the price of trailblazing, when you're the first crack the ceiling, everyone watches to see if you stumble. The good news, if anyone's built for it, it's Clark. She's been under pressure since college days, carrying entire programs on a back-breaking records on a brightest lights. Pressure is basically your home court. So here's the moral of the story. Women's basketball just hit it. Turning point, a single contract, maybe entire system reevaluated priorities. A single player reminded everyone that authenticity, star power, and loyalty be gimmicks and shortcut every time. And a single fan base proved their voices can rewrite the future of a sport. Fake awards time, because a saga deserve of them. The biggest bag secured award obviously goes to Caitlyn Clark, who didn't just get paid, she redefined entire game. The We Tried Our Best award goes unrivaled for flail around with cash and ending up with nothing to show for it. And finally, the Unsung Heroes award goes the fan, because their loyalty is a real reason Clark could pull off his historic deal. So we think, is this the dawn of a new era in women's basketball salaries? Or is it just a one-time anomaly for generational star? Drop your thoughts, because this conversation is only just getting started. And if you love watching the chaos unfold, make sure you subscribe, because trust me, there's always another meltdown waiting around the corner. Caitlyn Clark's $1 million deal isn't just a headline, it's a statement. And that statement, loud and clear: women's basketball will never be the same. The anchor's barely dry on Caitlyn Clark's $1 million, a contract, and already the aftershocks are rattling to the entire sports world. You can almost picture league executives sitting in dimly lit boardrooms, eyes wide, clutching their lotta. Is like they're holding on the life preservers. This was as supposed to happen, not like, does not as fast. For years the WNBA, has had its pay structure neatly wrapped up in tidy numbers and tidy explanations, collective bargaining agreements, salary caps, revenue realities. You've heard all the talking points, but then Caitlyn Clark comes storming in like a tornado, and high tops, and Sunday the old rules don't apply anymore. $1 million contract that's not just bending the system, It's snapping it in half years with the tension gets delicious. On one side, you got the players watching Clark secure the bag and thinking, wait, if the money's there for her, then it's there for us to write. On the other, you got league execs silently screaming, please no. Don't say that out loud. Odd, because once the genie is out of bottle, good luck shoving it back in, and make no mistake, every player from rookies, hustling for minister veterans with championship rings, is recalibrating what they think they're worth. This isn't just about Clark anymore. It's about a ripple effect that could reshape contract negotiations, and even how players see their own leverage. The next CBA meeting, oh, you better believe, is going to be fireworks. Now let's talk about the WNBA perspective. On one hand, they're thrilled Caitlin Clark is doing exactly what they hoped, putting women's basketball map in a way no one else has. Her games or ratings, gold sponsors can't get enough, merchandise flies off shelves. This is the dream scenario for any league until we look the balance sheet, because when one player starts pulling in check that make the rest of the roster look underpaid, you've got a morale problem. Locker rooms are sacred spaces, but you can't tell me whispers won't spread. Imagine being a veteran who've been grinding for 10 years, who's built the league brick by brick, and you're making a fraction of Clark's deal. You're happy for, of course you are, but you're also thinking, so what does it might turn? And that's the uncomfortable truth. Clark's $1 million isn't as a payday. It is spotlight on the league's decades of underpayment. It's proof that the money was always there. It just took a generational star upright loose. That realization is both inspiring and infuriating depending on where you're sitting. Meanwhile, over a rival camp, Unrivaled is basically paced the floor like a villain whose master plan backfired. Remember, their entire pitch was built around this will pay Caitlin Clark real money. The WNBA won't. That was supposed to be either knockout punch, but the WNBA just counterparts and landed it. Clark at the money and stayed loyal, which leaves Unrivaled holding nothing but empty promises and slick branding campaigns nobody is buying at this point. The start of league looks less like a disruptor and more like a desperate side project, the kind of thing sports fans joke about in group chats. Without Clark, their novelty act, and where Clark firmly plant her flag in WNBA territory, their relevance shrinks by the second. But here's where it gets even spicier. This contract doesn't just affect women's basketball or reverberate across the entire sports industry. Networks, advertisers, and even NBA execs are paying attention. Why? Because Clark's deal is proof that women's sports generate and deserve big money that changes conversations in boardrooms. Suddenly investing in women's basketball as in charity, it's good business. And let's not forget the fans. Oh, the fans are eating this up for years. They've been screaming about how the players deserve more, how the league undersells its own product, how women's basketball deserve respect. Now they get to watch their favorite star force system, the Bandit. It's vindication. It's proof that all their support, all their ticket purchases, all their screaming online wasn't in vain. But with vindication comes pressure, because fans are going to stop here. They've had a taste of change, and they're hungry for more. They'll be demanding higher salaries across the board, better TV deals, improve travel conditions, all of it. And once fans start demanding, leagues have no choice but to listen or risk losing the very momentum I've been fighting to build. And don't think for a second that other athletes in other sports aren't watching closely. Soccer players, volleyball player, track stars, they're all seen as moment and thinking, if Caitlin Clark and breakthrough, why can't we? That's the power precedent. It doesn't set new rule for one person, inspires everyone else to test their boundaries. To now, let's pivot back to Clark herself, because while we can talk contracts and ripple effects all day, we can't ignore the human element. $1 million deal put a target on her back. Every game she plays will now come with critics deciding whether she's worth it. Every off night will spark headlines. Every playoff run will carry the weight of not just her team, but the future of how women's sports are valued. That a lot for one person to carry, but of a college career taught us anything, it's that Caitlin Clark thrives under pressure. She's not just playing for points. She's playing for a legacy, And this contract's a mentor place. As the face of that legacy, let's hand out some more fake awards because this moment deserve a ceremony. The glass ceiling shatter award goes to Caitlin Clark, Beasley, for proving once and for all that women's basketball salaries don't have to be stuck in a basement. The most awkward board meeting award goes to the WNBA front office for having explained owners what is only found money for one player after years of excuses. And finally, the better luck next time award goes the Unrivaled, who now officially have a band that last lead singer before the first album even dropped. But here's the real kicker. This is just beginning. One contract doesn't solve everything. It doesn't erase decades of underpayment. It doesn't fix the travel woes with the scheduling headaches or the fact that the league is still fighting for mainstream respect. But it does something maybe even more important. It cracked the door open. It shows that change is possible, and once the door's cracked, you better believe others are going to push it wide open. So yes, the WNBA shocked rivals are panicked, fans are ecstatic, and Caitlin Clark, she is playing a game, casually rewriting history with every dribble. The $1 million headline is gonna dominate for weeks. But the real story is how this shifts the future, because 10 years from now, when multiple players are pulling seven-figure deals, when TV rights for women's basketball rival those of other major sports, when little girls grow up knowing they can make a career out this, people are back and say it all started here. And that's why this moment feels so electric, because it's not just about one player cashing, and it's about a sport finally stepping into the spotlight. It always deserved. Caitlin Clark just changed the entire atmosphere. Women's basketball, with one signature, a single $1 million contract, has snowballed into a lead-white identity crisis. And now the WNBA is bracing for the storm it accidentally unleashed. You can feel the tension humming to every post-game press conference, every agent's phone call, every whispering locker rooms across the league, because here's the thing: when one person smashes the ceiling, everyone else looks up and realizes is how low was in the first place. Picture the scene: veterans have given their blood, sweat, and nights to this league for years, are sitting in the same locker rooms, if always sat in their stretching, taping ankles, tying sneakers, and then the headline flashes across the TV in the background. Caitlin Clark secure $1 million contract. The room goes quiet. Nobody says out loud at first, but you know it's running to everyone's mind. Wait a second. I've been grinding for a decade and haven't seen even half of that. And that's where the WNBA congratulations turns into oh. Because now you don't, as of Caitlin Clark at the center of a media frenzy, you got entire league players suddenly realize and have been shortchanged. This isn't jealousy. This isn't bitterness. It's a wake-up call. Agents are already circling like hawks. They're on the phone with sponsors. They're crunching numbers. They're prepping lines with talking points. See what Clark just got. Let's talk endorsements. Let's talk bonuses. Let's talk renegotiations. The ripple effect is instantaneous, and it's messy. The league, meanwhile, is trying to play it cool. This is great for women's basketball, they say in press releases, smiling through gritted teeth, and they're right, it is great. But behind closed doors, you know the anxiety is real, because once you pay one player at this level, the clock starts ticking on how long you can keep everyone else waiting. And oh boy, the fans are louder than ever. They've been calling the sorry issue for years, but now they've got proof the league can make it happen when they want. The money does exist when they're motivated. So why has everyone else been settling for scraps? Twitter threads are popping off, comment sections are on fire. The pressure is subtle, it's volcanic now. Now let's talk about the other stars of the league, because this is where it gets juicy. Imagine being Io Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionesco, players who carried his league on their backs, won championships, built a foundation that Caitlin Clark just stepped onto. They've been household names in women's basketball circle for years. IRS. They've earned MVPs Finals, MVPs All-Star nods. And now they're looking at Clark's rookie or a payday with raised eyebrows. It's not that they begrudge her success, far from it. They know Clark's impact is undeniable by forces a question that impossible to ignore. Italy. Caitlin Clark $1 million for a draw wire. They are awarded the players who built the stage. She's performing on that tension, that gasoline waiting for a spark. The WNBA has always had to walk a tricky line between celebrating its stars and managing finances. But Caitlin Clark just blew that balancing act wide open, because she's not just the player anymore. She's a cultural commodity. Her presence brings ratings at rival entire men's sports. Her games pull and millions of viewers, while other broadcasts struggle to hit six figures. She's proven her economic impact. But when one player proves it, the other start asking for risk. It's two, and here's the nightmare scenario for lead. What happened if other stars start flirting with outside offers? Imagine if Unrivaled, still licking his wound from Clark rejection, pivots and starts throwing bags. Veterans, imagine if international leagues flush with cash swoop in and 10 players overseas. He's suddenly, the WNBA could face a towel exodus. That's the kind of ripple effect Clark's contract could trigger. But let's not forget the human side of this. Caitlin Clark is only human. She's 22 years old, navigating a spotlight brighter than most athletes ever seen. A lifetime, $1 million contract sound glamorous, but comes with a mountain of expectations. Every game she plays will now be judged not just by fans, but by pundits asking, is she worth it? Every missed shot, every off night, every playoff loss will be amplified. And that's a heavy load for a young star to carry. But if anyone can shoulder it, it's Clark. She's been performing under pressure,